Welcome back to the ASN Dad Chat. We're a podcast and community dedicated to making sure no ASN dad in Scotland has to walk this path alone.
Our goal is simple: real talk, real honesty, and sharing our own experiences to help you navigate the system. Whether you're in our meetup group already or just finding us now, you've got a seat at the table.
And just a reminder, we aren't experts, we're just dads, and this is just experiences and opinions, not medical advice and not legal advice. Then let's go on with the chat today.
Hi everyone, welcome back to ASN Dad Chat. I'm Andy, joined by Sam.
Hello.
And Glyn.
Hello.
And this time we're just going to entertain you, telling you a little bit about how our wonderful weeks have been. Who wants to kick us off?
Sure. I know at the moment we've had a bit of a stomach bug going around the area. So our oldest, he's been struggling a little bit. Something as small as a stuffed up nose can be really difficult for him. So his appetite's been up and down. He's been very distressed. Our daughter, she's got the immune system of an ox, so she's been fine.
That old saying.
Absolutely. Our youngest, he's absolutely loaded at the moment, but he just doesn't care. When he had his surgeries, he got his adenoids removed, so at the moment it is just a stream constantly of boogers. So I think most of my day is spent wiping away his boogers. But apart from that, there's been it was my partner's birthday on, it's bad that I'm checking my phone here to check the date. It was my partner's birthday yesterday.
Happy birthday for yesterday.
Yes. She doesn't really care too much about celebrating birthdays, which, I'm not gonna lie, I find weird, but I love her, so I'm not going to say anything bad about it on the podcast. But she's got her birthday. We're planning on taking the children out hopefully this weekend. Hopefully once they're better. But I'm sure, as you guys know, when your children are ill, it is an absolute nightmare.
Yes. Yep, and that was obviously, I touched on it before about how we had all the issues with the floor and everything, and Ashton ended up being off school, and it was just a bit of a nightmare sort of thing. But this week there's not been any dramatic issues in the household. Ashton was back at his swimming lessons, and it's funny where we always have to kind of explain to them, like, you kind of need to kind of keep your eye on him sort of thing, even kind of get him to the pool. And it was a different guy this week, so I said to him, I was like, have you been kind of briefed on Ashton essentially? And he was like, yeah, we're totally fine. I was like, just watch, because he will kind of push things into the pool. And he was like, yeah, it's fine. Literally within 30 seconds he's launched a cone into the pool, and straight after that the guy just lifted him up, and I was like, yeah, if you have to lift him up, just put him on your shoulder, absolutely fine, go for it. Like,
it's one of my pet peeves is when somebody's like, yeah, of course. They're just
not listening,
but they
don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was like a few weeks ago at the swimming, and Cheryl was telling me it was the same sort of thing. So Ashton's kind of waiting at the gate to go into swimming, but the swimming instructor's giving like another wee girl a kind of review from her lesson sort of thing, and then I shouldn't laugh, but Ashton just goes by and just pushes her into the water on his way. And I'm just, all I can say is I'm just so glad. I think I would have just combusted into a ball of anxiety sort of thing. Like,
you could see like the bleachers, and you'd just be slowly dipping your head.
No, swimming's, I if I do go to Ashton's swimming lessons, I have my back to it most of the time, because I just can't deal with him constantly soaking his instructor, trying to get to the other kids and just trying to swim right across the lane. So yeah, swimming lessons is definitely Cheryl's lane. But yeah, other than that, pretty uneventful.
How about you, Glyn?
My week's been a bit up and down, if I'm perfectly honest. Obviously we're looking back at illnesses and stuff. So my youngest had his injections for like his yearly ones, and true to form, as my kids tend to be, he was not well after it. We were struggling trying to figure out what had wrong. Obviously he was very fussy, very upset for a while, and he had like a fever that was just constantly up and down, like absolutely roasting in the middle of the night, but then he'd just be freezing like at some point. And then on Saturday, just gone, he completely, like, his whole body broke out. And we're like, because it was for chickenpox. And we were like, it must be just like, it must be because you get a live virus, and he must have had a reaction to the chickenpox.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, right, I'll go to Boots. I'll show them it. Obviously, we'll get what we need to for it. And we did that, obviously. So I still had to work because I'd had a day off in the week because he couldn't go to nursery because of how bad he was. And I got back from work and my mother-in-law had been around and she was like, I don't think it's chickenpox. I'm like, what makes you that? She goes, the spots don't look right. So we're like, okay, let's just not beat around the bush. Let's just take him up to the hospital to get him checked out. Obviously, his fever was getting too high. He couldn't stand it anymore. So obviously, we just took him up, and they were like, "It might be measles."
Oh God!
And we were like, so they're like, so these could have been in his body for the last 21 days. You're going to have to get in contact with like your work, both your works, like whoever you've been in contact with for the last 21 days, all nurseries, all schools. It's like turned into like some sort of CDC like outbreak incident. Thankfully, it wasn't. It was a measles reaction from the Jags.
Okay.
So he had all the symptoms, but he wasn't infectious.
Oh, okay.
But this took about 5 hours up at one of the hospitals in our area.
Mm-hmm.
To a point where obviously I unfortunately couldn't go with my wife. She took him because she's the driver of the household. So it just made more sense. So I had to stay with Elijah. Somebody had to be there.
That must be hard in itself, like having somebody take your child up. Like it's even if it's your partner taking your child up, it's still like really difficult that you can't be there.
Yeah, it wasn't great. But obviously, yourself knowing, obviously, when you've got two kids, somebody still has to be looking after the other ones.
Absolutely.
I had a bit of guilt for it, obviously, because it was one of those rare nights where Elijah went down perfectly easy. So I'm just kind of sitting around in the house, just trying to tidying up, trying to do things, and she's just kind of giving me an update. So, like, because they thought it was measles, they'd been put into a room to essentially be quarantined from anybody else in case, obviously. But the nurses obviously were taking a long time to kind of get to her, and obviously especially because like in our thought process, obviously like, okay, this is measles, this is quite serious, especially in like a 1-year-old. Like, this should be something that takes priority. But I think that she got back to the house, I think she left about 6 o'clock and didn't get back in till like nearly midnight.
It's a long shift.
That's really tough.
Obviously she took everything she could do to try and keep him calm. Obviously she took milk. We've been having issues with milk as well because we don't know if he's lactose intolerant. So we're currently trying him on soy milk because every time we've given him like anything like proper milk, it's just gone straight through. Even when we were doing formula, he had to have certain formulas. Obviously, Noah's had quite a ride when it's come to illness. Obviously, like he's just very susceptible. I think he must have some sort of immune issue. But we haven't been able to really check for it yet.
That's really difficult. Like my partner, she's got an autoimmune issue, and you know when our youngest, he was that kind of age. It was certainly something that we really, really worried about. Like, you know, he was constantly having bronchiolitis. You know, up until we knew about the things that we needed to do for his surgeries and stuff. But I think I was on edge so much. So I can only understand.
After Noah's first set of injections, when he was like a proper baby, like we actually had to stay in hospital because they thought we had a UTI.
Right.
But again, it was just a reaction to these injections that he'd had, obviously. But we were in. Jade had to be in hospital with Noah for I think it was about 3 days, and he started in like a one ward, obviously because they thought he was infectious. Obviously, so he had to have his own room, and then like after 2 or 3 days of being in the hospital, like they got moved into like a ward and they have to do a sharing room. And Jade's like, I mean, this is a brand new baby. Obviously, like he's not that old. And you're putting me in a room with a teenager, like who's just come out of surgery. Obviously, they're in pain. He's not sleeping.
Yeah,
like this is the worst possible environment ever. And again, I felt bad because obviously, like Jade had to stay. Like you talked about the fact that obviously that you are very like wide awake, have to be awake all the time. Obviously, but I am very susceptible to falling asleep. I can sleep like on a 5 minutes into a car ride, I can be asleep. So much so that I think I might have a touch of narcolepsy.
Add it to the list of things we can chat about.
Add it to the diagnosis that we've got going around. But yeah, she had to do the time in the hospital. Obviously, I would jump up, but I was just at the same time I was just starting up a new job. So I had to say to my new boss, I'm like, hey, I know it's my first day, but my son's in hospital, so can I start tomorrow? And he's like, yeah, sure, it's fine.
It's good that you had somebody quite understanding of that.
Yeah, I think so. When I did my interview for this job, I actually had Noah with me.
Oh wow, right, there you go.
So I was like, child. But no,
please take me.
Yeah, my boss at the time, obviously, he was like, he's a parent with a young child as well. Like, he's like, don't worry, dude, it's fine. I'm like, I understand.
That's good.
Yeah, it makes a difference that someone does understand and kind of gets it. They aren't just kind of having a kind of laugh with it all, sort of thing. When you do have to take so much time off or things for your kids, when they can't just drop it anything. Because similar to you guys, Ashton was the kind of same. He was very prone to, he had so many infections when he was younger, and it wasn't until he obviously got his Fragile X syndrome diagnosis that it kind of made sense, because with Fragile X syndrome they're very susceptible to infection, so another kind of thing that made sense. So he was in and out of hospital quite a lot when he was younger, so he'd been in hospital quite a lot, and kind of feel like it's got to that point, the kind of more we've been in now, we've kind of got, similar to what Sam was saying before, that they've kind of got that emergency bag packed and ready for whenever the kind of next trip to the hospital is going to happen. We've kind of got the same sort of thing. As soon as Ashton kind of starts to go down, it's right, get the chargers in the bag, tablets, phones, snacks, clothes, any sort of toys you can pack, just to try and make it as kind of home away from home as possible.
The same way for a hospital as you do for a holiday, I think.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I think you really do. I think we from where we stay, our local hospital gets kind of shut down.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like an A&E at the time, so it was like really handy. So our closest hospital is like the RAH, the Paisley Hospital.
Yep.
Yeah. But obviously for children, it's the kind of the Royal Hospital.
That's where we like Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's where our youngest, he got his surgeries. And it was a shame, because he got his first surgery, and then there was an outbreak of RSV, so he contracted RSV, and he was in for another 2 weeks, and then
this should just be the bad luck podcast.
Change name.
Oh, do you know what? I think it's one of those that you can look at it that way for sure, but at the same time, RSV was going around, and it was possibly fatal for some people. So I think actually I'm looking at it and going, you know what, my boy came out quite lucky. He was really struggling with his temperature. He was constantly like irritated. At that time he had a feeding tube because of the work done on his throat. He was born, it was called laryngomalacia.
Yeah.
So he had a floppy larynx. Anytime food or milk, for example, what was going in, it was going straight down, and then we found out he had a laryngeal cleft underneath the larynx, which meant it was going straight through this tiny gap into his lungs.
Right.
So he kept getting bronchiolitis, he kept getting constant colds, he was constantly sick, and the hospital pretty much became a second home, and I think we stayed on that ward for a month. I want to say I lost my job in that time, just because I couldn't fulfil my hours.
That's difficult.
But I think I look at it and I go, these are the things you do when you're a parent. No,
you can have to drop everything.
Everything gets dropped, and there's nothing you won't do for your kids. So no matter what, you kind of put yourself to the side and you focus on it. And we were staying up, and it was in a kind of four bed bay kind of thing. And he was, luckily they had like built-in tablets on top of the cots at the thing,
right.
So that kept him busy. But I couldn't imagine doing it now. Like, I think he would struggle, really. But I think, especially hospitals, there's so much going on. There's so many, staff coming in from during the day into the night. There's so much that has to be done. So I think about the surgeries that was done. They done a phenomenal job of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think. The hospitals, obviously, it can be hit and miss because it's quite a difficult thing for our kids to go through, and I think it is a total different kind of sensory experience as well. It is, in the kind of one way, a lot of the rooms are very, very kind of basic sort of thing. So sometimes we kind of find it with Ashton that kind of seems to help him focus a bit because he kind of knows what's happening in the rooms. But I think it's just that way we've just kind of built up confidence-wise and Ashton's familiarity with the hospital because he's been in and out so many times. Like, I remember when he was younger, he kind of developed like a rash like over his full body. It was kind of really kind of angry, scary rash sort of thing, and we couldn't understand what it was at all. They could never figure it out. It wasn't that way. I remember it was I had seen him, like a wasp flew into him and then fell, and so in my head I was kind of like, is that what it is? Because after that he'd taken this reaction, but then they were testing it to be like, nope, it's not the wasp sting, but they just couldn't get this rash, so he had to go on different steroids and things, and then eventually it was that way where they sent us home, and we were kind of like, it doesn't seem right sort of thing. This was after a few days, and then we got home, and then he just kind of collapsed to the ground. His legs just kind of stopped working.
God.
And it's that way. It was scary, and obviously we're thankful everything's fine now, but I think it's that way in the hospital that even though these are people that are nurses and doctors, especially when it comes to our kids, I think that you do need to kind of know that you know them best sort of thing. You really need to advocate for them and kind of say what you need. So even when we go to hospital now, we know that Ashton wouldn't cope in like a busy waiting room or anything, so we'll always get a side room. Definitely Ashton wouldn't cope being in a room with anyone else, so he always kind of gets a private room, and we know that kind of what's going to set him off and what's not. I mean, it's difficult to get to that point. I mean, the very first time it wouldn't be the case. I mean, I remember, I think it was actually when we came back in from that, I had to ask them to go and get a clock to put on the wall, because at that point Ashton was loving the numbers, and I was like, can you go find us a clock to put on the wall so that he'll focus and stay here. It's just so many things that obviously you don't want to constantly be in a hospital, but at the same time with that, Ashton now kind of picked up a familiarity, knowing kind of what's happening, what's in there. He's obsessed with the nurses half the time in terms of getting his obs done. So they can't come into the room without checking his temperature, giving him his blood pressure, putting the wee thing in his finger. He absolutely loves it. He kind of even takes it himself and puts it on. My
youngest, he's the complete opposite of that. Funny enough, he sees somebody with a blue jacket and he freaks out, because a lot of the time they were coming in, taking his bloods, coming in, taking tubes, etc. So, and it's hard. You sit there and you watch it, and I know you were saying there about the kind of doctors and nurses and having to advocate, and it's hard because when you go to hospital, you just want the most kind of smooth sailing journey for your child. You want to go in, you want to find out what's wrong, you want to get out. That's basically what you want, and it's never that easy, obviously. But I think we've talked about before. Probably, I think it was episode 1 we talked about this, was people getting it.
Yeah.
And I feel like even doctors and nurses, some of them do. I was quite lucky that the ward that we were on, my best friend's mum, who has a child with autism and very similar requirements to my oldest, she was working night shift that night, so it was actually really handy in the sense that she came by, she constantly checked on my partner and on our oldest. So but like you're saying, you're everything can be a fight, and you have to, and it's, people look at us like we make these requests, like you were saying about the clock. Like I know, was it we requested something to be either put on the door or tied round the door or something, so that my oldest couldn't get out. Yeah. And people looked at us as if we were, we had two heads. Yeah. And it's sad because if they took a step into the life that we're in, they would understand. But it's raising that awareness and fighting these fights that we can, make it a bit more. I'm trying to think of the word, but make it more just and more fair.
Yeah,
for our children.
Definitely, I think it's that way of, and it's again what you said, the whole thing of, you said your oldest had kind of got out the room sort of thing, because it's that way of, as much as it would make things easier, they probably aren't going to let you kind of lock the door and things like that. And it's the same with Ashton. It's that way of almost, there's been times where you move the visitor's bed round the other side to just try and have that barrier between the door, and even just try to sleep with one eye open. I mean, Ashton was in hospital recently. He needed to get I've lost the word, the thing that goes into your arm.
Cannula.
That's the one. I thought catheter at first as well, but I think that goes somewhere else. Yeah. So he had to get those, and it was just a kind of horrible experience overall, kind of having to hold him to get it in, and then he immediately just ripped it out, so the blood all over the floor, and he passes out, and then eventually, after the kind of second or third time, having to completely bandage his arm, getting a splint on there, and it's that way where Cheryl stayed overnight with him and everything, but then as soon as she closed her eyes, Ashton can rip the cannula out again. And it's that way, it's horrible for him, but then you know that as soon as he does that, you need to go through that experience again of getting it back in. Because for him, what it was is we had been on holiday, and he was absolutely fine until he came back, and his ear started kind of bleeding during the night. So we took him into the doctors, and he said he's burst his eardrum. And it's one of these things again where couldn't tell us.
There's no way you'd know.
Yeah, and he'd been swimming the full time, then obviously gone on a flight, so you're thinking the kind of pain it could have been, and then so he's on kind of this medication, and then one of the days I was looking at his ears, and again with the kind of what I was saying before with Fragile X syndrome, the kind of protruding ears is one of the kind of physical signs of, but one of his ears was literally just sticking straight out, kind of like a satellite sort of thing, and I was like, that seems really odd sort of thing. And so I said to Cheryl, I was like, the ear's looking really odd, and then we're like, let's take him up to the doctor again. As soon as we got there, it was kind of, you need to take him to A&E straight away, and they were talking about this thing called mastoiditis, which I'd never heard of.
Jesus.
Again, I'm no doctor, so I'm going to absolutely butcher what this actually is. But it's essentially if you have a kind of perforated eardrum that goes untreated, it can basically travel into the kind of bone behind your ear,
right,
and it can then start to kind of work away at the bone, and we're told it could travel into the brain. It can cause a lot of really, really serious issues. So from that point, it was kind of alarm bells ringing. So that's why you had to get the cannula, to get proper kind of antibiotics and everything into him, and it was that way of, it was so important to get it in. So we were in for a good 3 or 4 days trying to kind of get it settled in there, but they were great with us. It was, by that point, I think we had bags and bags of your toys, and it was just kind of home away from home again. But it's that way of, you don't want to make it that you're kind of familiar and comfortable in hospital, but I think with our kids, it can be a blessing if they know that it's going to kind of one of their safe places, essentially.
Yeah. Thankfully, I think we've, touch wood, never really had to do that many visits to hospital, with Elijah anyway. I've had to go to A&E a couple of times for a couple of injuries, but he gets so emotional when he goes there. It's like he had to get blood drawn, and it took me and 2 nurses to hold him down. So
it's horrible, isn't it?
And they were like, "Oh no, it'll be fine. Obviously, you just hold him." I'm sorry. I said to him, I said, "I'm telling you now, you're going to need another couple of people.
Yep.
You ain't getting this. It'll be just me." And I'm like, "Oh, it'll be fine. It'll be fine." I'm like, "Just listen to me."
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes that is really just that, isn't it? You're sitting there going, I know my child.
Yeah.
Like, listen to what we're saying. Like, and it's so destroying. Like, I remember our oldest, we had to give him it was like really awful antibiotics. Like, it was horrific.
Was it kind of white cloudy stuff?
It was like no, it wasn't white, it was almost like a lemony cloudy stuff, and it looked horrific. Like, but my partner, she tried to do it just him.
Yep.
And he like pushed back at her and almost broke her nose. Like, and you just sit there, and anytime he needs to get a blood test done, needs to be at least 4 people on him, because he is so strong. Like, he doesn't know his own strength, and it is heartbreaking because, you know, they are screaming because they don't understand what's going on, and you're watching this, knowing that they need to get it done, but you sympathise, you know, and you that duty of care that you have as a parent. You're sitting there going, you know, my child is screaming right now, you know, and I can't really do anything about it.
Yeah, it's horrible, especially because, as you said, you're having to kind of restrain them for their own good. But it's that way of, you almost feel like I don't know what you guys like, the kind of looks that they give you after it, as if you've completely betrayed them, sort of thing, and you just feel kind of horrible. But I think it does highlight, like, obviously blood test is probably traumatic for any sort of kid, but there's so many different things. Like, so I know that when Ashton was in, he got his tonsils removed, his adenoids removed, he got a tooth out when he was in there, and I've heard of kind of other people having to get, like, when they're under, they'll get like their nails all clipped and everything. So, certain people have had like haircuts and all these sort of things, and it's that way of another kind of piece of ASN dad chat advice would be
knock your kids out.
If they are having to go under a general, use the time, like, because that was for us, as I say, Ashton had snapped his front tooth, which again was horrible, and it was that way of, we're going to have to go under 2 surgeries to get his tooth removed, or one for the tooth removed and then one to get his tonsils and adenoids removed. So it was that way of working with the hospital to get them to tie in to get this done in the same sort of surgery. So I'd say if anyone is having to go under anaesthetic for any reason or other, get as much done as you can. Not obviously, I'm not saying go under cosmetic surgery or anything, but we were the same recently. Ashton had to get a hearing test under general anaesthetic. As mad as that sounds, it just kind of highlights how the most simple things can be huge. But when he was under, they were checking his teeth again, they were checking his throat, and again, Ashton seemed to be the 0.0% that their adenoids had just happened to have grown back, so he had to get his adenoids clipped out again. They checked his heart, because again, there's a kind of related heart condition with Fragile X syndrome, so we got that checked. So it was that way of essentially get the full MOT done, because it's going to be a traumatic experience as it is, so you might as well get as much done as possible when it's happening.
I think that translates anywhere in ASN. If you have time on your hands, get it used, because it will make things so much easier. Like, and I think, like you were talking about, you have to work with hospitals. You know, you have to really, you know, trust the people that you're insuring are looking after your child. You know, you really need to, like, bond as a team, because at the end of the day, they have a duty of care, of course, but this is your child. You know what's going on with your child. You know triggers, you know language, you know ways to help your child calm, or like keep them distracted, for example. So it's so important that you have to kind of work together, and I think it can be really difficult. You know, occasionally, you know, you do really get, like,
lucky.
I know we were touching on that, but you get you know, health professionals that are really switched on when it comes to, you know, ASN. They've dealt with plenty of patients before, you know, but you also get experiences where you talk to health professionals and it's just not
don't get
productive. You know, and it's sad to say, because, you know, the amount of things that they've had to do to get where they are, you know, and then something like this comes along where it's something in comparison to all the training and all of the practice, it's so minimal, but it can be so impactful on your child's stay and how your child views a hospital. I
think a lot of obviously, like, to give credit's due when it comes to people that work in hospitals, they have to harden themselves every now and again. So to think, I used to work in a hospital. Right. I actually used to do the food for the wards in Birmingham Children's Hospital. It was like one of my first jobs, and having to, even the smallest amount of, like, interaction I had was just taking food up onto a ward. That could be the highlight of some child's day. Just being like, okay, I know I'm getting pizza today. I've had a rough day. I'm getting a pizza tonight. Amazing.
Yeah.
But obviously, we took food to like the burns ward. We'd see like young kids in there, like full body burns and stuff like that. Obviously, you try not to have to look into the, but some of the obviously the rooms are open. And like we had one of the main parts of the Birmingham Children's Hospital when I was working there is they made a teenage cancer ward. And obviously you had like anywhere between like 13 to 16-year-old cancer patients obviously having to deal with what they were dealing with, and then there was a specialised like ASN like ward, which we had to work very closely with, obviously because of specialist food needs, and obviously we know ourselves, obviously a lot of our kids have safety foods, so that all the food had to be right for every ward, obviously, of course, but any mistake on this ward could be the difference between like
a good day and a bad day.
A good day and a bad day. So if anything was missed, it was like there was a call straight away and like, we need this up here right now. We haven't dished up their food yet, so if you can get this up here quick, it's going to stop us having an absolute breakdown. But you get to obviously with that sort of ward, obviously there was a lot of like ongoing kids there, so we got to know a couple of them. Obviously, a lot of them are great kids, but it's still hard to see some of the things obviously that you would see in a so I can understand obviously where these people have to kind of push themselves away, obviously, but I think there's still a lot of knowledge that could be taken in, obviously, for a lot of these people, obviously, and I'm sure they do take the training, they take the opportunity to do it. I think obviously you kind of touched on it with the swimming instructor. Like, do you know about Ashton? Have you?
You don't want to come across as being like, I don't trust you or anything. It's more just like, here's some tips just to help, sort of thing. And that's the thing. Like that wasn't any sort of slighting him. Like he was great. He was absolutely brilliant. But it's that way of just listen because it's essentially for your own good. So.
Yeah, I think sometimes, and I was talking to my partner about this beforehand, because we're very laid back parents, but we're very vocal when things go wrong. You know, and you know the healthcare sector. You know, I feel so badly for them because they're expected to produce more and more each year, and they're probably getting funded less and less, and it's heartbreaking because I know people that work in the NHS and you know they're working more hours, or you know they're just absolutely shattered, and you have to take that into account as well, you know. But at the same time, when you're in this situation where you have your child in hospital, your only thought process is, you know, that's number one. You know, that's number one. And I think when I look at it and I go, is there things that ASN dads can do? Is there things that hospitals can do to improve that relationship, that, you know, that second home, if you will? Is there things that they can do? And I think some of the things that we thought about, you know, you've got obviously like you've got certain things that go up on doors of, you know, this child has infectious, you know, this child, I know a very common one is halal, like food requirements.
Like,
as far as I'm aware,
now
this is again my personal opinion, it's not medical, and I could be completely wrong, but I don't think there's one for like non-verbal autism or, you know, flight risk. And little things like that, if they put that up, a nurse walks past and goes, I need to check this one, because if that kid's away, you know. And the nurses at the time with our oldest, they were very chill because he was just sitting down eating toast. But in all honesty, he could have waited and went the other way and he'd have been out the door.
Or into any room.
You know, or into another room with an infectious child. You know, and
I think it's something easy that they've all got boards on the doors, so you can easily just turn around to someone and be like, hey, gonna just put this on this door for me? Like just so like I'm not asking for like a giant sheet or anything, just like a little comment at the bottom that says flight risk. Or non-verbal.
And I think it's that way again of literally just don't be afraid just to say like, this is what we need. Like, can you do this? Can you keep an eye? Because it's that thing I think we've said before, that it's difficult to obviously sleep at night and things when you're in the hospital, because you are thinking what's going to happen, sort of thing. Are they going to get out or anything? And if you have been able to highlight it to them, like, here's a flight risk, can you just keep an extra? It's not as if you're not going to obviously be snoring in 5 minutes, but at least you know that someone else is kind of looking out to kind of make sure everything's okay. But yeah, I mean, I think the other side of the hospital visits, I mean, Glyn, you're kind of lucky you were saying that you haven't been in too much, but Sam, I don't know if you've found it, that the other side to it is it costs an absolute fortune going up and down to the M&S or the WH Smith and bringing in the McDonald's and the Greggs, and you'll be spending a fortune in there trying to just keep things going.
Do you know what, I think a lot of the time when it came to our oldest, he wouldn't touch the food. Now, for our oldest, if it's not the correct chicken nuggets, if it's not Bird's Eye chicken dippers, or it's not McDonald's nuggets, then you may as well have just spat in his face. So
he's a man of culinary tastes.
Yeah. Oh, of course, yeah. Don't even get me started on the texture of the chips.
You said on the last one, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
The soggy ones.
If it's a crispy chip, he will throw that like a ninja star at it. So a lot of the time I would be running out, you know, if my partner was coming up, she would stay with my oldest, and I would run out to McDonald's or KFC.
Yep.
Or Greggs, like you were saying, and jump back, and it would cost an absolute fortune. But yeah, unfortunately, it goes part and parcel. You know,
can't do anything else.
You have to, you have to plan these foods, and then, like you were saying, you have to pack like an army bag worth of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know, tablets, snacks, clothing. You know, at the time, our oldest, he couldn't have any food, which for our oldest, you know, it's like a death sentence. So he was on like ice poles. Yeah. That's all he could have. So on it, I think he went through about 8 ice poles in the time before his surgery, and I was like, he's going to be hydrated at least. Yeah. But it's like little things like that you don't always consider. You know, that when the food comes, you know, your child can be picky. Yeah. You know, we talked about it. I can't remember if it was episode 1 or 2, but we talked about our children's kind of food preferences, and if they were flexible, or I don't know what I think like. But
Elijah is good for food for the most part. Similar to what you said before. Obviously, like he's a snacker. Mm-hmm. Obviously, like he'll eat a proper meal sometimes, but 9 times out of 10, it's all snacks.
Yeah.
But he loves fruit and veg.
Okay.
So that is the only plus that we've had from it. Like our house is full of watermelon.
Right.
Like that has been a constant like fruit for him. Like I could buy stocks in watermelon, like, and I'd be set for life. It's sometimes obviously like that can be the case of the only way he gets any hydration as well, which is good for us. But again, like he loves the McDonald's. Obviously, he loves like. We had a over the last summer, Jade had a thing where like she had to go to Popeyes a lot because he'd found like the Minecraft film, and it was the lava chicken. So to him, Popeyes was lava chicken. It wasn't spicy or anything like that, but it was like.
Just as well it wasn't chicken. Like Black Rooster or something like that, because I remember the first time I had one of them and I almost started crying with how hot it was. I don't do spicy food.
I'm not too bad with it, but I'm no hero. I'm not going to eat anything major. But Noah obviously is only just getting into eating food, so we'll see how that is. For the most part, I can tell he likes meat.
Yep.
Vegetables, he's hit and miss with just now, but you give him a sausage roll, he'll go to town on it. Absolutely,
that's always a favourite.
Do you know, in our house, we do get a lot of the time. We'll go to Greggs and we'll get the 4 packs of cold sausage rolls. We'll get like 2 of them, so there's 8 sausage rolls. Most of the time it'll be 2 each, and then our oldest will probably have the other 2. But what we I said this the other day to my partner, because the kids were all eating. My oldest, he opens up the pastry, takes the sausage out, closes the pastry, and he's done with it. So he's sitting eating the inner layer. Our daughter, she just kind of rips it by hand, like into different pieces, and she just kind of eats. And then once she's done with it, she'll, like, if she's done with the pastry, she'll rip off the pastry and then eat the sausage. And then our youngest rips the sausage out and eats the pastry. Now I remember I turned round to my partner and I was like, never have I ever seen a more ASN based like food, like the way we're eating. I was like, honestly, we've got one child that's eating the inner layer, we've got one child that's eating the outer layer, we've got one child that's doing a bit of both, but eating it like a barbarian. So yeah,
Ashton's the same. It's that way of sometimes it could be a 6-month rotation where he wants to just eat the sausage or he just wants the pastry. I've never ever seen him bite them both at the same time. He'll get to the point where he'll eat. I remember the first time, I can't remember what it was, I think it was maybe he had never ate the pastry or he'd never ate the sausage, and then one day he ate them both, and I messaged Cheryl, I was like, he is eating the sausage roll, I repeat, he's done it, and it was like this huge thing. Again, it's that kind of small victory sort of thing. It was like he's eating the sausage roll.
Does he still do it to this day?
So yeah, still makes a huge mess, pastry everywhere, but he does love a sausage roll. But it does have to be, if you give him a cold one, he's not too happy, so it always has to be either or go to Greg's and it's either roasting hot and it's time to cool it down, or a cold one. So he's very particular.
PTSD, boys, I'm not gonna lie. Having used to work for Greg's, having to hear that all the time. Anything hot?
Oh god, I feel for, like, especially when they've been sitting there and you're just like waiting on serving them, and then you know somebody comes round and they're like, is it hot? And you're like, well, no.
I've seen a whole tray of sausage rolls be rattled in like 2 seconds flat, because you take them straight out of the oven and people are like, them now. Like, but I like, personal preference, I think that they taste better and they've just cooled down a little bit, because you can't eat them like straight away.
No,
like,
it burns the soul out of your mouth. That I'm a massive fan. I'm diving into this on the podcast. Anytime it comes to food, I'm like, hello.
This is maybe a Sam's spin-off.
Sam Food Podcast. No, I adore steak bakes. I adore them.
Heroin.
But see, a piping hot steak bake, it's like lava.
Yeah, it is. 100%.
You bite it, like, I remember I bit in once and a bit of gravy touched my lip, and honestly, the squeal that I made was like, have you know the chipmunk from Ice Age? Was
this a pain or like a pleasurable?
Oh, it was. Do I have lips anymore? It was like, I think I squealed like the chipmunk from Ice Age. Like, I was like, ah. So I learnt my lesson that day. But I do love a good steak bake.
So yeah, if kind of Greg's are listening, we're open to sponsorship.
Yeah, listen, just don't send me any, because I'm trying to lose weight and I will balloon it, in all honesty.
Yeah, I mean, just going back to what you were saying about trying to stop your youngest eating in the hospital, I think that was, they tried to give us like a kind of afternoon slot for Ashton's surgery, and we had to basically refuse until they would give us the very first slot of the day, because there's not a chance at all that Ashton wouldn't eat in the morning sort of thing. So it was literally, we can't come in until you give us this slot, because even in the morning it's trying to just kind of pacify him with, and Ashton only drinks water, so it's that way of just trying to pacify him with water up until his actual surgery. But I can imagine it would be hellish trying to do that until late in the afternoon. Something that we used to get, and it's something that does crop up now and again, is can't you just change it this once? And I'm like, that's not how an ASN routine works. Yeah, it's like, if we change it once, that child is going from 0 to 100 in that minute. You know, your week's done. It ruins your week, month almost sort of thing, for that kind of one moment. Do you know, it can be something so simple. So it is. You have to, like you were saying, you have to advocate, and you have to be, you have to be bold with it. Mm-hmm. Be respectful, obviously, but you need to get what you deserve and get what your child deserves. Yeah, we're parents, but we're also carers as well. Yes, absolutely. That is what it comes down to. I had this conversation. So I've recently changed like my work schedule, and my whole company had been really good for it, and I was like, I appreciate. I'm a manager of the business that I'm working for, but I'm also a father and a carer first, and that's my priority. That's how they totally understood it, and it was amazing with it. But you have to explain these sort of things
to them as well, so they need to understand that this is the impacts that these sort of things can have. But it's always good when a business or a workplace will be okay with that.
Yeah,
I've been quite like I basically I'm a stay-at-home dad at the moment. With everything, I took a break. I done a teaching degree, and I went into a placement, and it was actually before my youngest came along. But I started having panic attacks, and I couldn't function. So for once in my life, I had to turn around and go, I can't do this, and I stepped out and I went into kind of other jobs, and I was in a private like a private institution looking after children who'd gone through abuse, social care, and I really enjoyed that. But that's obviously when my youngest's surgeries happened.
Mm-hmm.
And since then I've thought, well, if I can stay at home, I can improve myself mentally and physically. Watch the kids grow up a little bit. Sometimes I know people who have been on one side of the working, they've the extreme almost, they've been working and then they've missed that side of their child, or the other side where they just watch their children grow up and then they don't have anything after it. So it is trying to find that balance and trying to find a business or a solution where
that works
it's
around your life,
accommodating,
And this is why obviously it's a topic that it's hard to talk about sometimes, but during COVID, I count that to some of the best time I had personally, because I got to watch and look after Elijah in his early years. Obviously he was he was 1 and 2 years old at that time. Obviously I had time there that I would never get with Noah. And never get again or in a lifetime.
Were you still working during that time, or were you on?
No, I was furloughed. Obviously, because of working in retail, obviously I'd occasionally have to go to do certain things. But for the most part, I was primary parent then, because Jade was still working because of what she does. But for the most part, I got to do so much with him because I didn't have to do anything else. My whole day was just spending time and playing with my child.
I love that. And there is an element of that I'm doing right now, but these kids, man, they can destroy our house in a blink. So half the time, 95% of my day is just tidying up, picking up clothes, putting washings on, and do you know what? It's therapeutic because it's like a routine for me, but I also get that time to play with the kids. And don't get me wrong, when my youngest is on top of me, my stepdaughter, she runs across onto my stomach, which my stomach's already dodgy as it is because I've got IBS and things like that going on. I'm also on Manjaro for my weight loss, and then my oldest tries to climb on my shoulders, and he's 60 kilograms, and he's wanting me to carry him around the room. I don't know what damage that's done to my back or anything like that, but I'd do it again.
Yeah, I think it's that way where it's like there is so many things, the amount of mess and how difficult things are, but then it's just totally worth it when you kind of get that smile, or you get that kind of bit of eye contact that kind of shows that they're kind of present and they're with you, they see you, and it just makes it all worthwhile.
Oh yes, it's certainly something that when we're in the group chat, seeing people's small victories is beautiful. It'll be something so simple that you sit there and you go, love to see that, because you might be having a bad day, and the last week, especially with the last week when I was ill, the kids were all ill, I'd be sitting scrolling doom scrolling, I call it, on my phone, and I would see just a little thing pop through of, my son done this or my daughter done this, and I'm like, love it.
I know, because you just know how that's made that other dad feel, sort of thing. You're
sharing that experience, don't you? Yeah,
it's brilliant.
Absolutely.
Do we have any small victories that we can kind of finish off this session with?
I think talking a wee bit earlier was helping my oldest to tidy up. normally when we refer to rubbish, we say put rubbish in the bin, and he will pick up any wrappers, but it'll only be specific wrappers. If any food is left, any plastic bottles are left, he normally just leaves them. We kind of phrased it where we're like, so rubbish in the bin first, then bottles in the bin, or boxes, because he'd got into sweets, so he had like a sweetie box on the floor. So we're like, sweetie box in the bin. It took him a wee bit of time, but eventually he clicked on, and I was like, something you couldn't do before, and now you can.
Yeah.
You know, and you have to take those moments, because otherwise, you know, and probably sometimes when I describe it, it sounds depressing as all hell, but
No,
you take those moments, you know, and that really just it gives you a life, a bit of, you know, a life energy to just keep plodding along and keep fighting.
Yeah, and I've always said for years, like, I've never ever done it. Like, I wish that I kept some sort of journal on Ashton's progress sort of thing, just to kind of look back to see like how far he's came from kind of years ago, to show that all the progress that he's made, because it's just kind of small things, like even now that he's always raiding the fridge, but now that he can actually kind of he can open his own crisps, he can open his own kind of food, he knows kind of what to do to kind of help himself. And then even this week from Ashton's school, they sent a really nice message to say that Ashton's his big thing in class, that he likes to make sure that everyone has a shot of everything. He really likes sharing. It's huge. He likes doing that sort of thing. It just kind of makes you proud that he's doing these sort of things. So yeah, it just goes a really long way when you get a nice message about your son.
Absolutely. What about yourself, Glenn?
I'm probably on the similar lines. Obviously, like, we get the messages from the school every day. Obviously, like, Elijah's done this is what he's had for dinner and stuff like that. But obviously, we get the occasional messages being like, he's done this with other kids. Obviously, and it's like Elijah has made friends with this kid in the class. Obviously, and that's a nice little moment, because at one point in my life, I'm like, is this kid ever going to have friends?
Yeah,
that's a big worry, especially when you're in. You know, when you're in that kind of ASN frame of mind, especially like we were talking about, when you plan everything out, when that diagnosis comes along, or when you start to notice these changes, you sit there and you go, oh God, is my child going to have friends? Is he going to, you know, are they going to grow up? Are they going to grow up? Are they going to work? You know, what's their life going to look like? So having those moments where they can go and they're playing with other children, massive.
Yeah, and he's a very independent child as well. Like, obviously he was an only child for the first like 6 years of his life. So he had just himself and us to play with. Obviously, he, like, even when we go to events, like, he doesn't follow other kids, or he doesn't play with other kids. Like, if he sees something they're doing as well, he might interact.
Yeah.
But to hear obviously that he's playing with somebody else, obviously he's making a friend. Yeah, I think that definitely gave me a smile that day.
No, definitely.
Quite rightly so, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's that way as soon as you just want anything that can kind of make their world a bit bigger, sort of thing, because a lot of the time they've just got this very small world where they've got their routine and they've got their kind of safe people. But if you know that if they're at school and they've got specific friends or anything like that, it's just nice. I mean, I remember when Ashton first got his autism diagnosis, and we were talking about things like, oh, when he's at school, like, you'd worry kind of walking by the playground, you don't want to think of him, he's just kind of standing there himself. But then I remember I think it was the nurse or one of the kind of autism professionals said, well, you need to think of it another way, like, he probably wants to be on his own sort of thing. It could be that way if he doesn't want to be around a whole group of kids. Like, you've just got this kind of mindset of based on they should be like this, and it's obviously what we touched on before, Sam, about how you were saying about, you know, dessert has to come at the end. It's like, why?
Societal
like these sort of rules, like they just have to kind of go out the window. Like, it's just whatever happens to be best for your own child is the best way to do it. You need to just kind of throw out the rule book and just kind of do what's best.
You have to be flexible.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, I think it's important that we do continue to share these kind of small victories. Obviously we're highlighting how difficult it is as well, but also highlighting how rewarding it is, and how great these kids are and can be.
They have a place out there. They have skills to learn. They have themselves to become, and a step at a time. If we can, do something. If we can do something positive every day, or we can connect with, like we were saying, health professionals. If we can connect with education professionals, all of that improves their standard of care every day, or raises awareness of certain additional support needs.
Yeah.
Then we're on the right track, aren't we?
I think we just need to make sure you're using your voice as best as you can. It's not everyone, but with all these other people that aren't in that situation, like they're not going to know what our kids are like, and all our kids are all completely different. So any feedback that you can give is going to be beneficial to everyone to kind of make this kind of world a bit easier for them. Let them understand how your son, how your daughter ticks, and help them learn, because most people you talk to are wanting to do everything they can, but as we all know as parents, it's taken us a long time to understand our kids, so it's not easy for a stranger who's met them for the first time or anything like that to just get it straight away. So I think that's why we do have to, and we always do, kind of give everyone a certain level of kind of benefit of the doubt, because they're trying their best.
It can be really frustrating, and you kind of have to understand that some people just are not as educated as we are on a ASN, or when it comes to our children, nobody's going to be obviously as clued up on as us.
Yeah.
But ASN is the awareness is spreading.
Mm-hmm.
There's resources out there. So even if you're listening to this and you don't have a child with ASN, if you're curious, by all means go research it up. Go have a look. There's lots of resources out there.
I know personally that I'd put my hands up and say that before kind of Ashton, or before my niece was diagnosed autistic, I didn't know there was a kind of world out there like this. I was completely blind to it. So it is natural that people don't really know kind of what is going on with that. But yeah, it is a kind of different world out there, and it is eye-opening when you're kind of part of it.
I think we're building a community enough now that we have got a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And even like sometimes when we put things into the chat that we've got and we're asking advice, obviously there's already somebody that's going to be able to be like, have you tried this, or this has worked for us previously.
Yeah.
Even on like some of the heavier subjects, obviously, or like something light as like one of the dads the other day was just asking, guys, I need a soft play, like what's open at the moment, like where's best to try.
Yep.
And that can be something as simple as saving somebody's afternoon.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be a case of, guys, I'm trying to get medicine into my kid, like what have you tried?
Yeah, any sort of advice. And that's the thing, like 9 times out of 10 we've probably all made the same mistakes, we've probably went through a lot of different experiences, and that's where it is just that kind of pulling together to be able to help each other, because we do have a lot of knowledge to be able to help each other, help dads out there that we haven't got in touch with yet, and I think that's where we're obviously looking to continue to grow, and help.
I think that's it as well. We've obviously talked a lot about our kids, but obviously we need to make sure that we're caring for ourselves, and if there's anything that you ever want to discuss, from one dad to another, that's certainly something that we would encourage you to do.
Yeah, I definitely think we want some questions in when we start getting a bit more, a couple of more listeners. Obviously, I think we'll put a post out at some point being like, we'd like some questions, obviously, and we'll do our best to try and answer them as we can. As we say, we're not professionals in any sort of scenario. We're a bunch of dads that are holding on to the seat and just hoping everything goes well.
Yeah, stumbling through this.
I couldn't have put it better myself. Yeah,
just take everything we say with a grain of salt, but also we could give you something that could be like, okay, actually that's something different, I haven't tried that yet, so thank you.
Yeah, I think the main thing is we'll be there to tell you you are doing as best you can, you're doing well, and I think with anything that, yeah, as always, we're glad you're here, you're not alone, and we will see you on the next one. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening. If you want to get involved or get in touch with us, you can find us on Facebook or Instagram under ASN Dad Chat.